Hello and welcome into Friday's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hicks and I'm your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI. And I am joined once again, as I am weekly, by the great writer for the site, Tanner Capolini. And we are here to discuss some bye-week agendas for the Arizona State Sun Devils. And I'm so glad to have Tanner on once again today. How's it going, Tanner?
It's going really good, Kevin. Thanks for having me on once again. It's been a very exciting season for ASU, and I think that the bye week comes at a good time to kind of talk about what's been going on. ASU's coming off a very exciting win against TCU, so it's going to be, I think, good for the team to rest and kind of look ahead for the future.
All right, yeah, that's perfect way to put it. Two nail-biting victories to open Big 12 play to really set the tone going into another set of tough games. The next four games they play teams that either are undefeated or only have one loss. The only one-loss team they play is the team that's coming up against in a game against Utah, in which the Utes are a very, very strong home team, especially in night kickoff situations. And then you have Texas Tech, who could very well be the best team in the conference. And then you have Houston and Iowa State as well. It's not going to be easy, but like you said, the bye week comes at a great time. And there are certain things that they can work on uh, in terms of areas of improvement, as well as hone in on areas that they've done really well in so far. That's kind of what I wanted to focus on today. And I really wanted to get started with talking about some things that they have done well pretty consistently through the first 5 weeks of the season. Do you have anything in mind, Tanner?
Yeah, I think the one thing that comes to mind is how much depth ASU has. You know, every college football team has their stars, ASU has theirs. But I really like how much depth this team has had at a lot of positions. That's very rare for college teams to have. And I think that's just been something impressive. You know, ASU's dealt with injuries, and we've seen people like Boogie Wilson, Martell Hughes, a lot of people kind of step up in those clutch situations. And I've just been very impressed with that.
Yes, that's very, very true, Tanner. It's kind of been a topic of discussion for a while that this Arizona State team is probably the deepest that they've had probably since the Herm Edwards era, the 2021 team, and we know that team was very, very disappointing. They did not live up to expectations. That was a roster that could have won the Pac-12, but this year it feels like the depth has been tested a lot more than in previous seasons, and the depth for the most part has really stepped up. Even Rodney Bimmage Jr., he is in the top 10 in the country in yards allowed per coverage snap. And that is very, very impressive for a redshirt freshman. Kenny Dillingham has kind of talked about how he was good enough to play at length as a true freshman. And you mentioned Boogie Wilson, Martell Hughes, Jaron Hamilton made a massive, massive play last week. Cameron Harpole came through with two big catches at the tight end spot. These guys are really stepping up in big ways, and that really is a strength of the team, and it really could serve them well against some other strong Big 12 competition. Is there anything else you have in mind, Tanner, in terms of the strengths of the roster?
Yeah, I think it's just been overall just a high level players making great plays. And I think the improvement as well from those players. Sam Levitt kind of began the season a bit shaky, kind of especially after that week 2 game against Mississippi State. But he really bounced back against TCU. I think that was his best game this season. Jordan Tyson's been awesome every game, but even someone say like Javon Robinson, who's the number 2 cornerback, he's been starting to get more comfortable. And I've been impressed with this team because usually in football it's kind of the opposite. Usually teams start off really hot and kind of cool down. It's almost been the opposite for ASU. They kind of started off good, but then they've gotten better over time. And I've just been really impressed with that. Also, too, the running game. That was something I was really concerned about here. It turned out to not be a big worry. If Cam Scatterbo going to the NFL, I was wondering what's the ground game going to look like. But, Kyson Brown, Malik Brown, and even Sam Levitt have been really good on the ground game. And that's been something that I doubted, but it's worked out really well for ASU.
Yeah, Thank you for bringing that up, Tanner. The run game, I've kind of been a proponent that the run game was going to be a pleasant surprise and a lot better than people anticipated it to be. And it has been so far. And that's without Kyson Brown really making a dent over the last few weeks. He really only had the week one game against NAU where he really showed out. And then obviously sprained his ankle, missed a couple of games effectively. Then came back and wasn't real comfortable in the victory over TCU, but it's very easy to see a world in which he comes back and starts playing at a high level again in complement of Raleek Brown. I also wanted to talk about the offensive side of the ball, like you said. I think one of the strengths, actually, it could go to the entire team in this topic. I think coaching has been a very strong point of the team so far. I think every single position has had players and has had multiple players that have made key plays. I mean, obviously, quarterback is Sam Levitt, but I think every position coach has done a great job of cultivating a culture within the position group that is the focus, the target, and every single position has come through one way or another this season. I think the coordinators have both done a phenomenal job, especially Brian Ward, honestly. The fourth quarter management that he's had over the last couple of weeks has been incredible. The game plan, the calls that he's been dialing up. Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover are the two best quarterbacks in the conference, now named Sam Levitt, and both of them looked incredibly uncomfortable for a lot of the games that they played over the last 2 weeks. And I think that's just a testament to Brian Ward's preparedness, to his ability to adjust, and to his trademark throw the quarterback out of rhythm, create turnovers mantra. What are your thoughts on that, Tanner?
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that, Kevin, because I feel like the coordinators have not been given enough credit. People are welcome to have their own opinion at the end of the day with sports, but a lot of, because I do the social media pieces for ASU and SI, a lot of people have really been on Brian Ward especially, and again, like I said, people are welcome to feel how they feel, but this is a very good bend but don't break defense. A lot of these games, the opposing offenses will get into the red zone, but the defense just really rallies, and I think that's just a testament to the great coaching that they have. The just tenacity that's been in there, and I think that's just a credit to Brian Ward, and I just think the defense as well. They played really smart. They've done, I think, a good job as well at tackling a lot of the mechanics of defense. Of course, have they missed tackles? Sure, that's going to happen, but like a lot of, I think, college football defense, usually when you think of it, it's more explosive play based. ASU is almost more technical based with a lot of just the way they've been able to just play strong, and the pass rush as well. I was a big Clayton Smith guy, and he's really been great this year, so it's been cool to see that. Prince Dorbra's really gone going, especially against TCU. What a game he had. And then, yeah, kind of talking about the other coordinator, Marcus Arroyo. There's some stuff he could do better, I'm going to be honest, but I think that overall he's done a good job. I think when it matters most, he's called a really good game, and he's delivered. And I think that overall the coaching staff for ASU, especially Kenny Dillingham, has really been just, I think, the main thing I've been impressed with every week so far this season.
That's a good point with Marcus. I kind of wanted to turn that into a segue of things that we believe that the Sun Devils can clean up heading into the stretch run of the season. And one of the things I believe, I am a big defender of Marcus Arroyo. I think he is a great coach. I think he has a proven track record at the college and NFL level. But I do think that the Sun Devils need to execute their game script better. You can't start out games the way you have against Baylor and TCU when you play Utah, when you play Texas Tech, when you play Iowa State. Those are teams that capitalize on off of slow starts. The defenses will be opportunistic and create advantages for their offenses. And I just don't think that they will be able to play with that fire as much as the season goes on. I think that the most important thing moving forward is getting Sam Levitt comfortable in games to start out instead of easing him in midway through the game. And how you do that is up for interpretation. I believe there's a myriad of ways in which they can do that, and we've seen it play out in the middle of games. But I'm just saying we need to see that at the onset of games. We need to see some scoring drives, whether they receive the kickoff or they get the ball off of a defensive stop. We need to see something happen early.
Yeah, that's a good point. ASU's offensive philosophy almost seems to be a bit flipped in terms of kind of the play calling. A lot of stuff kind of before they get to the red zone, it's a lot of stuff over the middle, which is good, but I would like them to go deep more. And we saw it with Jaron Hamilton this past week against TCU. He had that big catch. I know you were excited about that, Kevin. And Jordan Tyson as well had some big plays. But I wish they went down the field more. Sam Levitt has a great arm. And in the red zone, I would like them to kind of go more so, like they throw a lot of balls into the end zone, which is a point to score, but a lot of the teams are really glued, they know to kind of cover that. And I really like a lot of stuff like a quick throw of the middle, try to get into the end zone. I feel like the red zone play calling is either trying to throw it up or running, and there's not a lot of creativeness. I would like maybe some more screens, maybe some motioning. Like just the red zone play calling has just been very bland. And a lot of, I feel like the way they've scored is either Jordan Tyson making an amazing catch, a run, or Sam Levitt scrambling, and that's great, but that's not sustainable. And I really like the point you mentioned, Kevin, about the Texas Tech game because that team can be red hot. And I'm just worried in that game if ASU is not attacking the field the right way, that they could lose that game. And this is a point that I mentioned to you before we recorded that these ASU comebacks, they're fun. They're exciting, right? It was awesome to be at the TCU game and to see that all play down. It was a really cool memory, but this is not sustainable, these last second wins. And I think better offensive play calling would lead to more sustained success.
That's right on point, Tanner. That brings me to a point where in which Sam Levitt has really stressed the fact that he believes that the team could be scoring 40 points a game every single week. I believe he said in the post-game press conference after the TCU game, we probably should have scored 45 points in that game. And if you look at the offensive numbers, almost 500 yards of total offense is probably a valid point from him. They probably could be scoring a lot more points. But like you said, it feels like they kind of just stall out once they get in the red zone. And kicking field goals is nice. When you have a kicker like Jesus Gomez, you want to use him. You don't want to avoid him like they did last year with the kicking situation they had. But you also want to punch the ball into the end zone when you're playing explosive teams like Texas Tech because Texas Tech not only has an incredible front seven, they have a secondary to back it up. They have an offense that scored 34 points against Utah. They came absolutely alive in the second half of that game. That's not an easy place to play. You have an Iowa State team that just absolutely crushed Arizona, an Arizona team that people were starting to turn heads on a little bit. You have a Utah team that has a dynamic quarterback in Devin Dampier that can flip the switch either with his arms or legs at a moment's notice. These teams aren't going to fade away easily, and you really need to take advantage of an offense that you have that's as potent as it is. And I just kind of feel like I agree with you there. They need to utilize a Shimon Mateer more in the red zone, a secure target that you can find ways to break soft zone coverage. You need to use a Jaron Hamilton. We saw he has really, really good ball skills. He's able to get open pretty easily. He finally converted his first big opportunity, which hopefully gives him confidence moving forward as well. You have a lot of options that you can go to, and the arrangement of just going to Jordan Tyson or letting Sam Levitt create plays with his legs is great and all, like you said. Those guys are natural playmakers. They're the best players on the team, but you need to really mix things up a little bit, I feel like, moving forward.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting because last year Jordan Tyson got hurt kind of towards the end of the season, and this ASU offense was still really good. Credit to Cam Scatabo, but the passing offense was still pretty solid. And it's just like I don't know. Just this year, they've struggled getting the other players involved here. Coaching again, there's a lot to go into it. So I'm not saying I could do a better job. I just think there's stuff to kind of analyze and see, okay, how can, they adapt. I know too that Marcus Arroyo, he worked with Justin Herbert at Oregon. And I know that a lot of people kind of were saying that Herbert at Oregon, the play calling was almost a bit too safe. And I kind of feel that with ASU sometimes. Sometimes they played it a bit too safe at times, but hopefully that there's confidence gained. And the thing is, it's like ASU's defense has been really good, and they haven't went over 30 points. So I understand taking a shot down the field, you could have an interception or so, but I think hopefully they can be more aggressive. I do want to ask you something, Kevin. We talked about the coordinators. What position coach have you really been impressed with so far this year?
That's a good question. That's a really good question because I really think that I've been pretty impressed with about everybody. Um,
I was going to say for
I
me,
might go with Brian Carrington. I might go
okay.
with Brian Carrington, the DB's coach, because you see the adversity that they've kind of faced. Xavier Alford might be the leader of the defense as a whole. He might be the single best player on that defense. There's a reason. I mean, this is trivial, but there's a reason why he was the third highest rated player on Arizona State in college football, 26 heading into the season. He has that star level uh, ceiling attached to him. He has production. He's a leader. He does a little bit of everything on the field, and he's been out since after week two. Just the way that Coach Carrington has organized that group. Ghost Rouser is playing as good as anybody on that defense, and that's saying something with Keyshawn Elliott, C.J. Fight, Prince Dorba, Clayton Smith, all those guys stepping up. Keith Abney as well. He's been phenomenal in coverage. Really, like Brian Ward said, he's very, very sticky. It's hard to get separation on him, even if he is a little undersized for an outside corner. You mentioned Javen Robinson. He's really picked it up ever since his rough game against Mississippi State. Like I said earlier, Rodney Bimmage Jr. has stepped up. Boogie Wilson has stepped up in a massive way in uh, relief of Xavier Alford. And you also have to take the nickelback position into account as well. You have Kendrick Breedlove, who has stepped in for Montana Warren, and he's done a phenomenal job. He's forced fumbles. He's broken up a couple of passes. Just the DB group as a whole has been exponentially better than last season, I'd say. And credit to Brian Carrington for that. Like I said, I really do like every single position coach. I think that every single guy has done a great job, but I wanted to shout out Carrington specifically here.
Yeah, I like that because I think a lot of the more like people know Sean Aguano as the running backs coach, and he's done a really good job this year with the rotation. Hines Ward's the receivers coach; he's done a good job. But yeah, I like how you mentioned Carrington, and the reason I ask is I think it's important to shut out those guys. But if Brian Ward or Marcus Arroyo say get these head coaching jobs, it's good to know who's in line. I think Brian Carrington can really go places with coaching. I know he was part of an NFL coaching pathway program with the LA Rams, which is one of the more forward-thinking organizations in the NFL. For me, I've been impressed with the D-line coach, Dylan Reynolds. D-line's been great. Prince Dorbrook, Clayton Smith have both been great. The D tackles have played very well. Even some of the rotation guys up there have been really good, and they've been getting some pressure there. So yeah, I think it's important to just shout those guys out and give them credit.
Absolutely. I really don't have any complaints with the staff as a whole. I think Kenny Dillingham, one of the best qualities he has is he has an eye for not only finding talent to construct the roster around, but he also has an eye to find developers of players and men in the coaching staff. He really has done a pretty spotless job in finding those guys. Really, the only hire that he's made so far of a major position coach or coordinator that hasn't worked out is Bo Baldwin. He obviously was gone after the opening season in the Valley, but Marcus Arroyo was right there and he nailed that hire. And I think that when you're a head coach, I think making the hires around you is just as important as building the roster or engaging with fans or working with the athletic director. I think all of those are intertwined. And the fact that he can find guys that are equally bought into the cause, that are equally passionate, that are equally knowledgeable and equally good at player development, that's vital. And I think that he's done an absolutely incredible job of that.
Yeah, at one point, I'm going to transition off of that. That I've been really impressed with, going back to kind of the positives, is just the culture that ASU has. And I think it kind of like, yes, they're a college team. There's a level to them that almost kind of feels a bit NFL like. Like, I think the coaching staff has so much talent on it, and the way this team plays, there's a lot of discipline with it. And it's just been awesome to see just kind of the support with ASU football. All the fans have been, I think, has every home game been sold out so far
Yep.
this season? Yeah, so that's been incredible to see. I would say they have a home field advantage, and I just think it's been really cool to just kind of see all the support come in and how that hasn't gone to ASU's head yet. I think Kenny Dillingham has really done an incredible job of keeping the momentum in a good way of where it's at and making sure that they're not getting too ahead of things. Like, they're keeping things one game at a time, not getting too cocky or things of that nature. I did want to ask you something, Kevin. We talked a bit about the offensive struggles in the red zone. Is there anything defensively you would like to see them do better, or maybe a position play better, a player step up, or something like that?
So we did talk to Brian about that when he talked to media after Tuesday's practice, and he kind of said the same thing that we've talked about on the offensive side of the ball. The defense needs to clean things up in the red zone a little bit. That's not to say that they haven't made red zone stands like we saw last week. The Boogie Wilson interception off of a tip ball from Josh Hoover. That was a massive, massive play that gave Arizona State life early in the second half after they seized momentum back. It was 17 to 14 at halftime. Yeah, it was 17 to 14 at halftime, and TCU started out the second half driving, and then the interception happens off of a tip ball. Boogie Wilson makes an incredible play on the ball. He dives for it. He grabs it. But if you rewind to the first half, the two touchdowns they gave up were running plays in the red zone. And Ward was kind of talking about how they need to play certain alignments a little better, how they need to uh, really step up in those moments. Because, like we said, if you give Texas Tech two or three opportunities in the red zone in the first half and you don't stop them at least one of those times, you're in big trouble heading into the second half against a team that's that talented on defense. It's There's not a lot of holes to really poke at the Arizona State defense so far. They've really played to their means and even above. Even though they're talented, the injuries have been piling up. The amount of plays that they simply have to run just due to the high-powered offense that they faced off against, all the rotations they have to make. They played very, very well with all contexts included. And I think the red zone thing is probably the most pressing issue right now. But overall, I can't complain too much about the defense. I think they've really stepped up, and I think that they have a pretty good opportunity to uh, put their strengths on display again against Utah, even though Utah is a unique challenge.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot. For me, I would say one thing is I would like the pass rush to be more consistent. They've been very hot or cold. It always seems like they get a really big sack at a key moment, and it's awesome. A couple of the ASU on side pieces I've written about have been about those big sacks and big moments, but there's a lot of times where they don't come in as much. I think that's the one thing for me I would just like to see more is a more consistent pass rush. I do think too sometimes the coverage in the middle of the field. I noticed that against the TCU game will kind of be open. In terms of who that's on, I don't know, but I think just tightening things up. I think they've done pretty well with the downfield defense. They're not allowing a ton of big plays here or there. The other thing too, I do want to mention is I feel like the penalties are still kind of an issue with ASU. Um, they've gotten better, but it just seems like there's a costly penalty here or there. I get that's going to happen, but it just seems very simple. So I think this bye week comes at a good time. We're coming off an amazing win, but there's some technical stuff to clean up. I don't think it's more so defensively and penalty wise, it's more technical. I think offensively, it's more scheme wise, but I think the bye week comes at a good time for them.
Absolutely. And just for a final thought, uh, from me talking about that bye week coming at a good time, I believe that Xavier Alford could come back for the Texas Tech game. Dillingham was pretty steadfast in his belief that the bye week wouldn't give enough time for a guy like Alford or a Montana Warren or even a Cyrus Viaseyu to come back for the Utah game. But it kind of seems like the door's open for a return against Texas Tech, and that's really the big one that people have circled on their calendar right now. If they can get by Utah, obviously Utah has two NFL level offensive tackles, dynamic offense that really is different from previous years. It's hard to prepare for, but I believe they have the athleticism and the talent to withstand those losses for another week. Going to that Texas Tech game with an extra week of rest on the books, who's to say they can't make a run like they did last year? I'm not going to rule that out whatsoever. And I'm excited to cover the rest of the season alongside you, Tanner. And do you have any last thoughts before we wrap up today's show?
Yeah, we'll talk about it more next week when we do the game preview for Utah. But I'm more so worried about that game than Texas Tech. I did a NFL mock draft just for fun, on my own time. Like not, I didn't write about it or anything. It was just kind of a fun exercise, and I had like two of the Utah OTs going in like the top 10. You have Spencer Fano and Caleb Lamu, so that's going to be a very hard test. I think too, like ASU's been a bit bumpy on the road. They lost to Mississippi and they beat Baylor, but there's some stuff they could have cleaned up. And the defense, I feel like, has struggled a bit more on the road. So that game, I'm kind of nervous about. Texas Tech, it's at home. Exciting for that. But yeah, Utah, it's also a night game. It's a night kickoff game. So, and I'm very interested to see how that team adapts to that Utah team because I feel like they're a bit different how they've been facing. But yeah, it's been a season that I've been enjoying. These games have been exciting, and it's been great to cover with you, Kevin. I'm excited for more ASU football, and I hope that the players and coaching staff rest up for an exciting second half.
Absolutely. And like we said, we will be back probably next Thursday or Friday to discuss the upcoming matchup against Utah. Go a little more in depth with that unique Utah offense. Talk about some things that Dillingham brings up during the week. Possibly some practice intel. And I am so thankful for everybody that tunes in. Hope you enjoyed today's show, and thank you so much for joining me once again, Tanner. And I will see you guys tomorrow.